The original idea of the internet was a utopian concept, a borderless shared global flow of information streaming across networks, nations and cultures. Today, things have changed quite dramatically. Hello and welcome, I'm Nikita Singh. In this episode of Tech It Out, we are looking at digital sovereignty, how countries around the world are trying to control data, build local cloud tech infrastructure, hardware manufacturing and information flows, just like they control borders and airspace. Today's cars are connected to satellites, servers and apps that track everything from where we drive to how hard we brake. Now, automakers say it makes driving smarter, safer and more efficient. But do we really need our wheels to record every move we make?
Ashwini Vaishnav, India's Minister for Information and Broadcasting and Railways, recently endorsed Mappls, a homegrown mapping and navigation tool. In a video posted on X, Vaishnav demonstrated the app's features while traveling in a vehicle. According to Map My India, the company behind the app, Mappls offers India-specific features such as 3D junction views, real-time driving alerts, doorstep navigation, accident-prone zones, and live traffic signal updates. Among Indian users, this gives Mappls an edge over its international counterparts like Google Maps. In 2021, India liberalized its geospatial data policy, which allowed domestic players like Map My India to build detailed digital maps without foreign restrictions. The move was part of a wider effort to keep critical mapping data, which has strategic and security implications, under national control. However, an app like Mappls or an integrated navigation software is just one of the many data gathering elements within a vehicle's larger digital ecosystem. The cars we drive today are more connected than ever and full of digital applications. And this information doesn't just stay inside the vehicle. Sensors, cameras, GPS units and onboard diagnostics constantly record and transmit data to automakers, service providers and sometimes third parties for processing. This data helps automakers with product development by analyzing vehicle data on how drivers use different features in their cars. Automakers can identify which features are more popular and which ones are underutilized.
In the picture, you can see all the Q7 vehicles in our fleet. We've established how frequently all the switches and pressure points are used. And if you look at the red areas here, you can see that the volume control on the steering wheel is used much less frequently than the green-colored volume control on the center console. And that makes it easier for us to work out how we could possibly design the products differently in the future.
The same method can be applied to enhance in-car safety features. This data also has wide implications in personalized marketing. A 2023 Salesforce research on connected cars in the United States revealed some glaring trends. The study showed that up to 67% of connected car drivers were willing to trade personal data on an opt-in basis for personalized benefits, such as better insurance quotes. However, only 5% agreed to unrestricted data collection, indicating that user consent is a key priority for most drivers. But there is a downside to the data collection as well. In November 2023, multiple lawsuits in Washington, US alleged that Honda, Toyota, Volkswagen, General Motors and Ford recorded and intercepted car owners' private text messages and call logs when their phones were connected to the vehicle's infotainment systems without user consent. A Seattle-based federal judge dismissed the lawsuit, stating that the claims were not severe enough to be considered a violation of the Washington Privacy Act. The ruling thus allows car makers in the US to continue to record invasive personal data like voice recordings, text messages, and in some cases, even biometrics. The fact that this information is sent to undisclosed third-party service providers is a serious breach of privacy. The user based on whom the data is generated barely has any control over it. Today's cars are connected to satellites, servers and apps that track everything from where we drive to how hard we brake. Automakers say it makes driving smarter, safer and more efficient. But do we need our vehicles to record every little rhythm of our movement?
From TikTok's battle for survival in the US to Google's billion-dollar AI hubs being built in India. Data, where it's stored, Who has access to it and who can monetize it is what defines power in the age of AI.
This deal really does mean that Americans can use TikTok, but actually use it with more confidence than they had in the past, because their data is going to be secure and it's not going to be used as a propaganda weapon against our fellow citizens. We're very excited about it. We appreciate the cooperation of everybody involved, and it's a big day.
The future of TikTok in the US is secure. But how about the data of its users? That may well hinge on where the data is stored. Under pressure from Washington, the Chinese-owned app is moving all US user data to servers in Texas, managed by Oracle. It's called Project Texas. And it's a great illustration of a global phenomena, a race to build the infrastructure of the digital age. Over the last year, countries around the world have tightened data localization laws, requiring foreign tech firms to store information within the country's borders. The message to big tech is clear. If you want access to our citizens, their data stays within the country. Nowhere is this more evident than in India. Google has announced plans to invest $15 billion in India over the next 5 years, unveiling a massive AI hub and new data facilities.
We're very pleased to announce a new gigawatt-scale AI hub in Visakhapatnam. It's the largest AI hub that we are going to be investing in anywhere in the world outside of the US. It represents a capital investment over the next 5 years of $15 billion.
Amazon isn't far behind. AWS is investing an additional $2 billion in Telangana and another $8.3 billion in Maharashtra, expanding its data center footprint across the country. The reason? India's Digital Personal Data Protection Act that requires companies to store Indian user data locally. Digital sovereignty is part of policy as well as economic strategy. One Indian company has been ahead of the curve. Zoho has been around for 27 years, but it's only recently that its pitch, privacy first, no venture capital, Indian-owned model has started resonating globally.
So a lot of compliance and regulatory frameworks have been put in place by every government. For example, European government has come with, like say, Europe has come up with the GDPR. Our European customers' data reside on the European data centers. Similarly, right, say we have 16 data centers worldwide. So, and everywhere it is local in the country. And same as with India, right? So whatever the Indian customers' data are actually stored in the Indian data center.
This pattern is repeating across the Middle East. In Saudi Arabia, Oracle has committed $14 billion over the next decade to expand its cloud and AI infrastructure, aligning with the kingdom's Vision 2030 goals. Microsoft is also building new cloud regions in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates for oil-rich nations looking to diversify their economies. Data sovereignty is both a security imperative and an economic strategy. In Latin America, the digital infrastructure race is just beginning.
Pero no solo eso.
OpenAI, the world's most important artificial intelligence company, announced its intention to invest $25 billion in developing data centers in our country. They want to turn Argentina into the third artificial intelligence hub in the world.
Every time a person consults, uses, or develops artificial intelligence, data centers are required in the country. If Mexico wants to embark on a process of advancing in artificial intelligence, we need data centers. For there to be a data center, you need a lot of energy.
But the battle for data isn't just about where servers are located, it's about who has access to the information. And that is most evident in the geopolitical wrangling between the US and China over TikTok. Now, Oracle, which will oversee data access, will ensure ByteDance employees in China cannot view sensitive information. The US entity will also run recommendation algorithms for American users with a team of US-based engineers and security staff managing operations. Now, for governments, data localization is about leverage and national security. For companies, it's about compliance and market access. Build here or lose access to billions of users. For citizens, though, it's a double-edged sword. Local data storage can mean better privacy protections, but it can also mean easier government surveillance and censorship.
Millions of businesses and people were affected when Amazon Web Services went down this week. Over 100,000 organizations have reportedly been exposed to a data breach by hackers who targeted a CRM software called Salesforce. These are reminders of what can happen in a world that runs on cloud software when global systems falter, or worse, someone breaks in and holds you to ransom.
Internet users around the world trying to access a range of different online services experienced major disruptions on Monday. That's because there was a major outage at an Amazon Web Services data center on the east coast of the US.
A major outage at Amazon Web Services, or AWS, brought down some of the world's most popular websites and apps earlier this week.
Now, according to outage tracking website Down Detector, Amazon Web Services, or AWS, suffered a major outage on Monday, affecting thousands of users and causing widespread disruptions across.
The outage paralyzed digital services and disrupted businesses across the globe. The massive failure highlighted just how much of the internet depends on one company, Amazon, and its cloud services. The outage began early Monday in the US, in a region known as US East 1. This is Amazon's oldest and most critical data hub based in Virginia.
Now, Amazon Web Services, or AWS, provides the back-end computing infrastructure for a range of companies that provide online services. And experts say that just shows how the world, the online world, is so dependent on only a handful of these online infrastructure companies to provide their services.
Amazon said that the fault was traced to a problem in its domain name system, also known as DNS. Now, DNS is the part of the internet that translates web addresses into numeric codes that computers use to connect to servers. The failure had a ripple effect across the world. Social media and messaging platforms like Snapchat, WhatsApp, Signal, and Reddit stopped working for hours, and that left millions of users unable to send messages or load content. Banking and trading services also took a hit. Even Amazon's own products were caught in the meltdown. Services gradually came back online, though some remained slow as systems cleared backlogs. It turned out to be one of the biggest internet failures since last year's CrowdStrike incident that hobbled technology systems in hospitals, banks, and airports. To understand what went wrong, a DNS outage, although invisible to most users, is akin to a phone book breaking down. When you type in the URL of a website, your device relies on a global directory to find its numeric address. If that directory were to fail, the signal is lost, even if the website itself is running just fine. And since Amazon's Web Services, which is cloud infrastructure, powers a huge portion of the internet, that includes government websites, universities, and global companies, a glitch in its network can have cascading effects worldwide. Now, technology and cybersecurity experts have said that this outage is much more than a temporary inconvenience. It serves as a warning.
We are so reliant now on being online, and a lot of these companies are now forcing us to do a lot of our transactions online. So they're removing other options like going into the bank to make payments. Telephony banking is also quite difficult to do nowadays. So the more the companies push us towards using the banking apps and these sort of services online, the harder it gets for us then when these apps and these services don't work.
An outage isn't the worst eventuality when it comes to a global SaaS provider. Case in point, Salesforce. In 2023, the customer relationship management platform suffered a major data breach that exposed details of over 150,000 clients around the world. But earlier this month, a hacker group made headlines when it claimed to have stolen customer records from companies using cloud-based databases hosted by Salesforce. That story is developing as we speak. Now, both the Salesforce and the AWS incidents represent the dangers of centralization of digital services, infrastructure, and power, and how a few big tech giants like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google form the backbone of the digital economy. If banking, telecom, and government services can all be affected by a single cloud infrastructure failure, then that exposes a concentration of risk that could have international security implications. Such incidents remind governments and companies around the world to build backup systems. The AWS outage showed just how quickly the digital world can come to a halt when one critical piece of the internet's infrastructure goes dark.
Digital sovereignty doesn't start in the cloud. It starts underground. Every chip, every sensor, every satellite, every AI data center owes its existence to raw materials: lithium, cobalt, and a handful of metals we call rare earths. Now, this supply chain has become the epicenter for one of the fiercest geopolitical battles of our time. From the minerals buried deep in the earth to the semiconductors pulsing inside our devices, nations are now in a race to control the very foundations of the digital age. For years, the world believed the digital revolution lived in the cloud. It is built on the ground. Every chip, every battery, every connected device depends on an invisible web of mines, factories, and trade routes. A network that began to tear apart when the US-China trade war ignited in 2018. Tariffs, sanctions, and tech bans exposed just how vulnerable global manufacturing had become. China's dominance in rare earth elements, the 17 minerals essential for modern electronics, gives the country immense leverage. China produces around 60% of the world's supply and refines nearly 90%, making the rest of the world highly dependent on its exports. When Beijing began hinting that it could use its grip on rare earth exports as a geopolitical weapon, it sent alarm bells ringing in Washington. The message was clear: control over minerals could translate to control over technology. Determined to reduce that vulnerability, the US launched an aggressive push to rebuild its own tech supply chain. The CHIPS and Science Act of 2022, signed by the then US President Joe Biden on August 9th, became the centerpiece of that effort. Under the new act, around $280 billion has been allocated to revive America's semiconductor industry. Funding aimed at expanding domestic research, innovation, and chip manufacturing capacity.
You know, the CHIPS and Science Act supercharged our efforts to make semiconductors here in America. Excuse me, those tiny computer chips, smaller than a fingertip, that are the building blocks for a modern economy, powering everything from smartphones to dishwashers, automobiles.
Washington has also tightened export controls on China's access to advanced semiconductor technology, citing national security threats and fears of military misuse. The move has forced companies like NVIDIA to redesign and downgrade chips specifically for the Chinese market.
You know, the world is reconfiguring itself, and we are a company, and we have to adapt to whatever the world's trade and tax and tariff conditions are.
The ripple effects extend far beyond Silicon Valley. Taiwan's TSMC, the world's largest contract chip maker, has become a geopolitical pressure point, squeezed between US demands to limit China's access and the push to expand advanced manufacturing on American soil. Its massive new facility in Arizona embodies that shift.
The most powerful AI chips in the world will be made right here in America. This $100 billion in new investment will go into building 5 cutting-edge fabrication facilities in the great state. In total, today's announcement brings Taiwan semiconductor investments to about 165 billion.
Meanwhile, Beijing has doubled down on its own semiconductor ecosystem. With heavy state backing, firms like SMIC and Huawei are racing to close the technology gap, pushing forward with homegrown chips that increasingly test the limits of US sanctions. And the contest isn't just limited to chips. On October 28, 2025, US President Donald Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese signed a landmark framework for critical minerals aimed at reducing reliance on China's dominance.
Today's agreement on critical minerals and rare earths is just taking it to the next level, seizing those opportunities which are before us to take our relationship to that next level.
The tech war has now spilled into Europe after China expanded export curbs to cover rare earth processing technologies, a move that directly threatens Europe's supply chain for advanced manufacturing.
Unfortunately, this is not the first time we are seeing these types of measures. Such restrictions have already forced some EU companies to halt production, causing real economic harm and undermining trust. This is not about security or non-proliferation. These controls are targeting civilian industries directly.
Today, the geopolitics of rare earths and semiconductors is rapidly evolving. The US is building semiconductor fabrication plants in Arizona. China is investing heavily in domestic R&D. Japan is partnering with allies to diversify supply. The EU is building Gaia X, a sovereign cloud network to keep European data within European jurisdiction. And then there's India. The country is investing heavily in its own AI ecosystem, including Bharat GPT, the nation's sovereign generative AI platform. Built to support more than a dozen Indian languages, Bharat GPT handles text, voice and video and is designed to power enterprise-grade virtual assistants across sectors. The race for digital self-reliance is redefining alliances and redrawing borders. Invisible ones made of code, minerals and silicon. From rare earth elements buried deep underground to sterile semiconductor chip labs, the chips etched in clean rooms, from digital clouds that store our memories to the cars that map our every move. Sovereignty isn't just a political idea anymore. Nations want control of their data. Companies want control of their ecosystems. And somewhere in between, ordinary people just want a sense of privacy and freedom in a world that's constantly online. There are no easy answers for individuals. How we navigate these waters starts by formulating the questions, and that's all we've tried to do this week. Have a great weekend. You've been watching Tech It Out. Just a reminder that you can go on WION's YouTube channel to watch and share these stories. Keep watching WION and follow us on social media. This is Nikita Singh taking your leave. See you next week. Bye-bye.